Now let's see what are the measures to control the air pollution. Devices like filters, electrostatic precipitator or ESP, inertial collectors, scrubbers, gravel bed filters, dry scrubbers are used to arrest mainly the particulate matter in the air or the PMs in the industrial units. Now first is the filters. Now the filters basically remove the particulate matter from the gas stream or the flue gases, in which the baghouse filtration system is the most common one, and it is made up of cotton or synthetic fibers for the low temperature operation, and it is also made up of glass cloth fabrics for the high temperature operations. So just wait and let me show you the picture of the baghouse filtration system. So this is a baghouse filtration system, and in this particular device or system, inside of which there are something like this kind of this kind of pipes are fitted. Okay, in number of pipes are fitted into the channels like this, and the flue gases are fed in this direction, and these particular pipes, they are wrapped with the cloths, or they are wrapped with different materials or filtration devices, and these flue gases are fed through these pipes or through these filters, and the particulate matters are collected outside the bags, and after which they are simply collected by the inertial process, and the particulate matters are falling into the bottom, and it is collected in this section. This is the baghouse filtration system basically. Next is the ESP or the electrostatic precipitators. Now it can remove 99% of the particulate matter present in the exhaust. The emanating dust is charged with ions, and the ionized particulate matter is collected on an oppositely charged surface. I will show you this operation, this operation in just a moment. And these ESPs are used in the boilers, furnaces, and many other units of the thermal power plants, cement factories, and the steel plants, etc. Now the working is let's see the working. Now an ESP is having an electrode wires that maintained several thousand volts, which produces a corona, or a corona is nothing but a electrical discharge that releases electrons, and these electrons attach with the dust particles, giving them a net negative charge. The collecting plates are grounded, and they are having relative positive charge, and they attract this negative charged particles or dust particles. So these particular plates, onto these plates the dust particles will be coming and collected, and the velocity of air between the plates must be low enough to allow the dust to fall. So particles are removed from the collection surface by occasional shaking or by wrapping of the surface. Let's see the picture to make it clear. So see here, these are the storage plates. This red one, these are plates, and these blue ones, these are the wires or the thin metal rods, which are basically discharging the corona, and from this side the flue gases are coming, and the electrons will attach with these dust particles. The electrons will be attaching, and these plates, they are grounded. Okay, they are grounded, that is why they are positively charged, and the dust particles will be collecting or will be attracting towards this particular metal plates due to their different potential or the different charges, and after which this in this portion the outgoing gases, which are particulate matter free or the normal gases, will be fled, and after which by occasional shaking and the wrapping of these plates the dusts will be collected in the bottom. Okay, so this is the working phenomenon of the ESP, and this is the ESP device, the whole device in which the total action is taking place. From in this section the flue gases are fed, and there are these electrodes and plates are arranged in this fashion, and after this particular reactions or the the working is happening, the clean gases will be fed out and the dusts will be collected here in this part, okay. So this is the ESP device. So next, see inertial collectors of cyclone separator. It works on the principle that inertia of the suspended particulate matter in a gas is higher than its solvent, that is the gases, and as inertia is a function of mass of the particulate matter, this device collects heavier particles more efficiently, and centrifugation is the technique here. And cyclone separators, or simply cyclones, are these separation devices or dry scrubbers that use the principle of inertia to remove the particulate matter from the flue gases. Let's see the picture. Now this is the cyclone separator. As you can see, from this direction the flue gases will be fed, or the dirty air will be fed, and due to its circular cylindrical shape or a certain shape, this particular dirty air will be coming out of this particular area like this, and after which there is a different section as well. This is a conical section in here, okay, and the dust particles will be collected outside the periphery due to the centrifugal action, okay. And when a particle is moving in this fashion, or any body is moving in the circular manner, the body is experiencing a force which is outside, or which is tending that body to move outside or remaining into the outer radius area. And particularly by this principle, the higher the high density, or the dust particles, basically heavier dust particles, they are collected and they are falling out from this area, and due to some other action the clean air will be fed from this area and it will be taken out of the atmosphere, taken out to the atmosphere, okay. So this is basically the phenomenon of cyclone separator. The dirty air is moving in a cyclonic, or the cyclonic fashion, or the circular fashion, okay, giving it a picture of cyclone inside of the device. So let's see the next device now. Now next device is wet scrubber. Wet scrubber is an effective air pollution control device for removing the particles and from the gases of the industrial units. A wet scrubber operates by introducing a dirty gas stream with a scrubbing liquid, typically water, but it can be other mix as well. Now contaminated gas is moved through water, and the water then absorbs the contaminants and clean gas exits the scrubber. Now caustic soda solution, that is NaOH, is most common scrubbing liquid, along with the used for the acid gas control, or the gas which is having HCl, SO2 or both, through the sodium carbonate, though the sodium carbonate or Na2CO3, and the calcium hydroxide or slaked lime, or this is also used for the acid gas control technique, to control the acid gases. And there are also dry scrubbers which remove pollutants from the exhaust gases without the use of any liquid. Instead they use dry reaction material known as the sorbent, which is such as alkaline slurry, or it can be something called a limestone. Limestones are also used here, and for the removal of acid from the gas by moving the gas through the sorbent dust to maximize binding. So let's see what is the wet scrubber look like. So this is a picture of the wet scrubber. Now in this picture you can see the dirty inlet gas is going from this direction, and it is going through this fashion, and there is a spray of scrubbing liquid. These are scrubbing veins here, and this particular dirty gas, while it is going through in this fashion, the particular scrubbing liquid is attracting some of the particles in the dirty gas mixture, and after that their mixture is taken out from this outlet and it is collected, and this clean gas is going out in this direction. So basically this is the working phenomenon of the wet scrubbers. Next, see the catalytic converter or the CAT-CON system, which is used in the automobiles. Now catalytic converters having expensive metals, namely the platinum PT, palladium or PD, and this rhodium RH, and these are acting as a catalyst and are fitted into the automobiles for reducing the emission of the poisonous gases. As the exhaust gases passes through this catalytic converter system, the unburned hydrocarbons or UBHC, unburned hydrocarbons, they are converted into carbon dioxide and water, and carbon monoxide and nitric oxides or oxides of nitrogen, they are changed to carbon dioxide and nitrogen gas respectively. So there are two stages through which these are happening. See here this picture, hydrocarbon, carbon monoxide and nitrous oxides are fed into the system. First reduction is taking place with the help of this PT, that is a platinum, in which this nitrous oxide will be converted into the nitrogen here, and after that the oxidation is taking place through which the hydrocarbon and the carbon monoxide, after the reaction, it is converted into CO2, that is carbon dioxide, and H2O, and ultimately these three things are coming out of the vehicle exhaust, which are fitted with the CAT-CON system, which is having nitrogen, carbon dioxide and H2O with it, and which is less harmful or not at all harmful. So this is the working phenomenon of the CAT-CON system. Now motor vehicles equipped with the CAT-CON should use the unleaded petrol, because the lead in the petrol or the leaded petrol destroys or inactivates the catalyst in the CAT-CON system. So let's see some other measures to control the vehicular pollution or air pollution. Now the Bharat stage norms or emission standards for the automobiles have been implemented throughout the country that will reduce the pollutions, and the implementation of BS6 norms from the BS4 is also important in this matter, and the usage of the alternative fuels like CNG or compressed natural gas in the public transport vehicles is made mandatory in the cities like Delhi NCR, and CNG burns more because the CNG burns more efficiently. Unlike the petrol or diesel, it is said to be much more cleaner system. Okay, and again addition of lead in the petrol has been banned to prevent the emission of lead particles. CPCB has been executing a nationwide program of ambient air quality monitoring known as the NAMP or the National Air Quality Monitoring Program. Now the NAAQS or the National Ambient Air Quality Standards have been revised or revisited in the November 2009 to include 12 pollutants, which include the SO2, NO2, particulate matters PM10 and PM2.5, ozone and the carbon monoxide, arsenic, nickel, benzene, ammonia and benzopyrene. So these are 12 pollutants which are included in the NAAQS system. And the National Air Quality Index or AQI or Air Quality Index, which is launched by the MOEF or the Ministry of Environment and Forests in April 2015. It helped the common man to judge the air quality in the vicinity of their cities, various cities. This AQI has 6 categories in it. One is good, satisfactory, moderately polluted, poor, very poor and severe, with distinct color coding schemes. Now this AQI considers 8 pollutants mainly, which are PM10, PM2.5, NO2, SO2, carbon monoxide, then ozone, then ammonia and lead. These are 8 main pollutants. Now let's see some of the miscellaneous topics under the air pollution, which is acid rain. Now acid rain is caused by the atmospheric pollution from the acidic gases, which is the sulfur dioxide and the oxides of nitrogen or NOx emitted from the burning of the fossil fuels. This acid rain refers to precipitation with elevated levels of hydrogen ions or low pH, that is a pH less than around 5.6. Now you should be knowing that in pH equal to, if the pH is equal to 7, it is said to be neutral, and if it is if the pH is greater than 7, then the solution is said to be alkaline or basic, and if this pH is less than 7, it is said to be acidic, right? So it is basically this particular acid rain. In this acid rain, the hydrogen ion is much more, or concentration is much more in this aqueous solution, and the pH values decrease as hydrogen ion levels increase. The sulfur dioxide and the nitrogen dioxide undergo oxidation. Here it is the formula: sulfur dioxide is going through oxidation, and after that it is mixed with the water or the rain, and it is forming sulfuric acid, as it can be seen here. And also the nitric acid or the nitrogen of nitrogen of NOx. For the NOx, this is the formula: the NO2 is mixed with oxygen, that is oxidation is taking place. After that it is mixed with rain, and it is forming the nitric acid, not sulfuric, nitric acid. And this acid rain is very harmful to the agriculture, plants, animals. It washes away all the nutrients which are required for the growth and survival of the plants. The acid rain affects the agriculture by way how it enters the composition of the soil. Now when acid rain is falling down, it flows into the rivers and the water bodies, and it affects the aquatic ecosystem there. Now as it alters the chemical composition of the water to a form which is actually harmful to the aquatic ecosystem to survive, and it causes water pollution as well. Okay, now it damages the buildings and the monuments which are made up of stones and metals. The example of Taj Mahal is a very stark example regarding this. Now what is the prevention? The use of low sulfur fuel and or the natural gas or washed coal, chemical washing or pulverized coal should be used in the thermal power plants, which can reduce the incidences of acid rain. The practice of adding neutralizing agent to the acidified water to increase the pH can be other solution, and it is normally taking place in the fisheries, in the ponds and all, whereby the local management is mixing the calcium oxide or calcium carbonate, and they are spraying it into the water bodies to make it less acidic, to make the water less acidic. Okay, and also this nearer the monuments like Taj Mahals, the polluting industries such as tanneries, power plants, they should not be located. So next is the photochemical smog. Now smog is nothing but a combination of smoke and fog. Now smog occurs due to the factors like geography, sunlight, industrial activities, vehicular emissions, calmness of the wind, burning of the coal, etc. This photochemical smog is the result of action of UV radiation from the sun on atmosphere, which is polluted with NOx or nitrogen oxide and VOCs and hydrocarbons. And this photochemical smog can take place only in the presence of sunlight. Common examples are secondary pollutants that contribute towards the formation of photochemical smog include aldehydes, tropospheric ozone, peroxyacetyl nitrates or PAN. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah. So in India, the northern India specifically, especially Delhi, suffers from the photochemical smog, especially at the time of stubble burning in the neighboring states like Punjab and Haryana. The chemicals that contained within the smog, when combined with hydrocarbons, form molecules which cause the eye irritation. And the atmospheric radicals interfere with the nitrogen cycle by stopping the ground level ozone from being eliminated. That means ground level ozone is not eliminated properly, and it hampers the nitrogen cycle as well. And the ground level ozone can prove to be extremely toxic to human beings. And the photochemical smog results in reduced visibility, irritation in the eyes, respiratory disease of the humans. The smog affects the brain, eyes and nervous system, lungs as well. So the next see the ocean acidification, how it causes. This particular refers to ongoing consistent decrease in the pH value of the ocean water. The pH value of the ocean water, the pH level is in decreasing. As we know that when pH is less than 7, it is acidic. Now when the CO2 dissolved in ocean water, it creates the carbonic acid or H2CO3. Now CO2, when it combines with H2O, it forms the H2CO3 carbonic acid. Although it is a weak acid, but it turns the water acidic, and it also increases the hydrogen ion or H plus concentration in the ocean, and this lowers the pH value of the water. And the decrease in the pH will give negative impact on the ocean organisms such as calcifying animals, mollusks, crustaceans, echinoderms such as sea urchins, corals, and the calcareous planktons as well. Now this particular impact or the ocean acidification impacts the corals much by producing a phenomenon called coral bleaching. By which corals lost their life, or the corals lose their color, and corals lose their bacteria called zooxanthellae bacteria, and due to which corals basically die. Okay, this is because falling pH makes the oceans undersaturated with CaCO3, calcium carbonate, and the result is that the rate of dissolution of calcareous material would increase. That is, the shells around these calcifying animals, they will dissolve, such as the mollusks, and the coral reefs will erode faster than they can rebuild, which leads to coral bleaching, as I said. And these oceans are important reservoir for the CO2, carbon dioxide. That is, the ocean is acting as a carbon sink, absorbing a significant quantity of the carbon dioxide. But anthropogenic activities like human activities and effectively buffering the climate change, because humans are due to human activities, this carbon dioxide is in the air in a very high amount, and the particular amount which can be absorbed by the ocean is now increased, right? The uptake of the atmospheric carbon dioxide is occurring at a rate exceeding the natural buffering capacity of the oceans. That means the capacity to which the carbon is can be absorbed by the oceans, it is much more exceeding at the right now due to the human activities. And the marine animals interact in complex food webs that may be disrupted by the ocean acidification due to losses in the key species. Increasing acidity depresses the metabolic rate and immune responses in some organisms, organisms. It has a huge impact on the commercial fishing, fisheries, aquacultures, recreational fisheries, tourism activities such as snorkeling and scuba diving as well. And reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, that is the mitigation, is the ultimate solution to this particular ocean acidification. So this ends the particular air pollution part of the lecture. Now next I will be giving you the water pollution. I will be taking the water pollution, right. So thank you very much for the watching this video, and I hope you should learn a lot from this. Thank you very much.